You're listening to a DM podcast.
Welcome to Over the Back Fence. I'm Di Edwards.
I'm Nicola Dale, and we're buddies of nearly 4 decades. And yes, we actually do happen to share a back fence.
We do. We love parties, people, inspirational stories, and honestly, making the most out of life.
So join us as we open our hearts, share our stories, and hear from some of the most inspirational people in the world, and have a laugh along the way.
Yeah.
Enjoy. Hey, Didi, what an exciting day.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is Nicola and I were driving into the studio this morning and we both acknowledged that we woke up at 4:45.
Yes, 4:50.
And we share a back fence, so
Yes.
it was like this energy because we are so excited.
So excited. I could hardly sleep, and then I woke up this morning, and because I knew that we've got Terri Cole at our back fence, I couldn't go back to sleep. And I said, who cares? I don't want to go back to sleep. I'm pumped. And Di was the same. So we've been, if there was a video of flying our wall in our car trip, that was funny.
Yeah.
But look, for everybody here, let me introduce Terri Cole, a former talent agent to some of the biggest celebrities and supermodels in the world. And for over the past 20 plus years is a New York-based licensed psychotherapist, relationship expert, author, podcaster of over 600 plus episodes. In fact, Terri inspires over 1 million people weekly through her social media platforms, blogs, online signature courses, Real Love Revolution, Boundary Bootcamp, which I've done and can highly recommend. And with a new upcoming book, Too Much, High Functioning Codependency, coming out soon. And we want to find out more, but just before we do, and you know what, there's no apologies, I'm owning it, Terri. You're going to get a bit fangirled here because you have been on the top of our guest list from the very start. And we started our podcast last year. And you're coming out to Australia. And then last week we're going to connect you up with David the Medium. And we were asking about the podcast. And he said, write those lists down. And he said, and have that feeling and manifest it and energy. And I've always felt connected to you, Terri, you know, from sort of following you. You're an Aries, you turned 60. I'm an Aries, I turned 60. And I thought nearly like soul sisters. So dreams come true. And so welcome to the back fence, Terri Cole. Woohoo!
Hey, Terri, welcome.
Why, thank you, ladies. It is my pleasure to be at your back fence.
And not to mention how many people she connects to weekly on her media platform.
I know.
Like,
You're
it's
huge
huge.
globally.
Yeah.
So also, happy 60th. As I say to everyone, Di, it's the happiest thing ever because she's a couple of years older than me. And so turning 60, she was like, yeah.
I opened more bottles of champagne for me than her because I was
couldn't wait for me to-
finally the big six.
How do you feel turning 60, Terri?
I feel great, honestly. I did a lot of work in the past, I would say 10 years, around aging and making like really specific decisions about how I was going to do it, right? And I was on the fence. I didn't know. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll get a facelift, maybe I won't.
Fence.
But I was like, you know, yes, next to the fence, beyond the fence. And I really thought about how much energy and effort do I want to put into denying the reality of time when I'm not ashamed of my age. I'm not ashamed of what I've done. I don't wish I was 28. Like, I'm so grateful for where I am. And then I started getting pissed where I was like, who is to say that I know my value goes up as I age. I'm wiser than I was. I know more. I'm more of an expert than I had been at all the things. I'm kinder. I'm calmer. I'm a better meditator. I'm a better partner. I'm a better mother. So I suddenly started thinking, I'm not silent on these things. Why would I be silent around this? And why would I let the media, the patriarchy, the whole thing tell me that because I have wrinkles on my face, that I'm not beautiful or that there's something's wrong with me? Because the truth is, it isn't. So anyway, I had a whole psychological trip around aging, but I did it before I turned 60. So turning 60, I was like right on. And my husband is 10 years older than me. So I think that really helps, because no matter how old I get, I will always be the young chickie.
I love that. And you know what's interesting is that you look at and listen to Terri, and Nicola, you have it in spades, is confidence, I think, as you age, is, to me, makes you look younger.
And as you said, good
Well, it
eyebrows.
makes you look better. You know, it makes you look sexier. It makes you look, it's the confidence to me. I don't know if it's a youthing thing, as it's just so attractive. People who know who they are. I'm always attracted to original thinkers, people who are talking outside the box, thinking outside the box, using their own brain. And I feel like with the aging thing, that's what was required of me. Like, am I going to go along with the crew and think that aging's the worst thing and talk badly about my body, the parts that have changed? Or am I going to do everything I can, like working out, 6 days a week, like hormone replacement therapy? There's a lot of things that I do to stay as healthy as possible. But it really isn't my goal to be young per se. It's to be healthy and to be in my body and feel good in my body,
Not in denial.
Cheers to that, and happy birthday. We're just saying, we're both Aries and both turned 60 this year, so we've got a lot in common.
Yeah,
and
it's a great year.
So tell us a little bit about because you started out as a talent agent, Terri, back in the day with the biggest celebrities, and how was that for you?
Working with egos, lots of egos.
Well, it was an exciting career. It was fun. I really did the supermodel and celebrity thing was like the last couple of years of my career. In the beginning, I was more of a commercial agent for sort of regular people, like selling mac and cheese, I found it to be interesting and exciting until it wasn't. I was on my own psychological journey. So I was in therapy, and it's like I just, sometimes you age out, quote unquote, of something. I just healthed out. Like, I became too healthy to stay in the industry that's kind of I don't know, what we say, a hotbed of mental health, right? The entertainment industry, especially dealing with supermodels. And this was in the 90s. And I don't know if you remember, but this is when everyone knew who they were. Yes. Supermodels reigned. This is when George Michael was, creating that whole super famous video. And I mean, most of those women I represented at that time, it was like a really heady time. But what's interesting is that I had stopped drinking when I was, in my early 20s, when I was still in college. My senior year of college, I stopped drinking. And so I was in this crazy world of excess and had all of this, sort of accessibility to things. But because I was sober, a lot of it I had no interest in, so I would always hire assistants who were like single and liked to party and wanted to go out, because I knew not too much, but a little would be good.
You got to be at work by 9. Yeah,
that is correct, by 8. But yes,
not like us in Australia.
Oh yeah, no. Oh my God, I was such a workaholic then. I mean, that's still my Achilles. But anyway, the experience that I had was great, and I also realized that I got to this peak. I kept thinking, if I made this, or I represented this supermodel or this celebrity or Naomi Campbell or whoever it was, then those things would happen and I wouldn't feel the way that I wanted to feel. And then when I got to the top of the heap, and I was like, oh, guess what? I'm like on the wrong mountain. This isn't what I'm meant to do. And I thought, there's got to be something more valuable that I can do with my life than making supermodels richer. And listen, I'm not anti-supermodels. Many of them were amazing. But I was like, this really can't be my dharma. There's got to be something else.
The key words that Terri just said was, I felt it. It wasn't what you heard or saw with your own eyes. You felt it. And that's crucial, I think, in the 21st century, is feeling. And the fact that you weren't drinking, good move. You acknowledged that. That was very cool.
Good point, Di. Acknowledged it.
Yeah, and you can imagine that people, my father, lots of people were like, wait, what are you doing? You're quitting your job
because you feel it
to go to NYU to get $100,000 in debt to become like a glorified social worker. I don't get it. Like, what are you doing? And I had to realize that it didn't matter. And I said to my father, I said, Dad, I'm not happy doing this. I don't feel satisfied. The amazing thing is you don't have to understand it. I don't need anything from you, right? It could just be nice if you be supportive, but because he literally said, I don't get it. Sounds weird. I was like, what sounds weird? Yeah. I'm switching careers, but my father worked at the same place.
Yes. And back then we did too.
That's
back then we did.
Yes.
We stuck at it.
Right.
No boundaries.
How wonderful that you acknowledged it, and also you took action, and then you followed your passion despite
Brilliant.
people raising eyebrows and without the support, and then you became a therapist, a psychotherapist, and it all started.
It did, but it was like a continuation, because the truth is, when I was a talent agent, all I cared about the last 4 years of my career was the mental health of my clients.
Wow.
I was getting people into drug treatment clinics,
Wow.
referring 1 million people to
I
therapy.
didn't know this.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yes.
And they were finally like, because I actually went back to work. I was running the TV department at Ford Modeling Agency. And Eileen Ford was already gone, and Katie Ford was running the place. And I knew it was temporary. I already had become a therapist, but I was getting married. I needed money. They swore it was only for 2 months, which of course it turned into 8 months, but whatever. And I kept going into Katie's office, Katie Ford, and being like, hey, I think that we should really stop calling the models girls, because they're grown women. So just like all of these different things. Yeah. I was like, because they had underage models would live in these apartments together, and they would have the chaperones. And I'm like, the chaperones are doing cocaine. So I feel like that's a problem. They're letting the 15-year-old date the 40-year-old photographer. Do you think her mother knows? Yeah. So by like the last time I went in there.
You were mummy manager.
Yeah. Wow. Well, lucky that changed, and lucky the world has got to know you, because you're helping so many people, and you've got the books, and I've actually got it here in front here. This is Boundary Boss, and you've got the audio, haven't you, Di?
Yeah, I do.
And I've done an online course. I've done a few of them, but I've done a Boundary Boss course, and I absolutely loved it. So tell us what's behind, why is boundaries such an important thing?
And having said that, it's for the listeners right now. I mean, some people glaze over when you mention the word boundary. I mean, a boundary can be as simple as the boss at 5 p.m. saying to you, I need you to stay another 2 hours. And yet, you shouldn't, and I don't like that word, because you've got commitments, but you override what you should be doing, and you do what the boss says. So tell us a bit more about boundaries, about how important boundaries are, and really ultimately how we can feed that into our very being.
I think that there's a lot of myths, misconceptions, and people are saturated, but a lot of it is misinformation. So if we think about boundaries, the most simple way to think about your boundaries is that they are your own personal rules of engagement, right? This just lets other people know what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. So we don't have to make it super complicated. I broke it down into categories because I don't think boundaries are all created equal in the way of what's important to you. So it's your preferences, your limits, your deal breakers, right? So they're not the same, right? A preference is like coffee over tea. A deal breaker is if you're in a relationship with someone and they relapse and they say they're not going to get back into recovery, right? So, I mean, that would be a deal breaker for me. I mean, everyone will have their own deal breakers. I think that the real question is, why don't we know what the heck they are, and why do we have no idea how to implement and uphold them? And I think that anybody watching or listening has to realize that most of us were raised and praised to be self-abandoning codependents.
Wow, I've got to sit on that one. Most of us were raised and praised
for being self-abandoning, which is a fact.
Self-abandoning.
Codependent.
Wow, that's incredible. So we're going back a fair way, because I was wondering how boundaries begin. It's seeded, as I think you put it at one stage, from childhood.
It is childhood, and you all of us
how we
have
were
our
raised.
own. Absolutely. I mean, this is, I hate to say like the scene of the crime, but come on, it actually is. This is where all the things happen.
We've all acknowledged so many people have people pleasers of our generation because we're kind of brought up
Yep.
that way, weren't we, Terry? You know, to be the good
Be
girl,
kind,
to
be nice.
to be you know, if you want to say no, you can't really say it, so I'll do it
Yeah,
anyhow.
it's rude, yeah.
And
Yep.
it's so healthy now that we're and refreshing that we can say no. But how do we say no? And what's
Well, yeah. I mean, this therein lies the rub. It's not even just with people knowing your preferences, desires, limits, and deal breakers, which many people don't even know them. But it's knowing them and then having the ability to communicate them when you so choose. So yes, we go back to the scene of the crime, and each and every one of us has what I call a downloaded boundary blueprint, which means that your family of origin, we all came from different dysfunctional families, probably, but yours was dysfunctional in its own specific way. So the way that I relate to boundaries and the way that you relate to boundaries, they're all influenced by modeled behavior, family of origin, the country and the culture you grew up in. So it really isn't even just your family. It's what was the broader societal expectation, and you both said it. Be a good girl. If you don't have anything nice to say,
don't say it at all.
Yeah.
We heard that.
as
Well,
they
did
tell
we?
us.
Yes.
Knowing you and I, not.
We sometimes broke the rules, but still, no, we're exactly.
Yeah. So, go on.
There's just that expectation.
Yes.
So my point is, don't feel bad if you don't know anything about boundaries, right? You can learn. This is literally a language. And you wouldn't expect to be fluent in French just by crossing your fingers and being like, oh, I hope I do it. You'd be like, I need a book. I need a teacher. I need words. I need help. And so what I teach in Boundary Boss, the book itself, and in the course, I give you all kinds of scripts and ideas. But the biggest change has to be in your mind, because the myths around boundaries are that if you are good at setting boundaries, that you're controlling, that you're bitchy.
That's my
that you're
problem, Terri, is that I feel, sorry, and I don't want this to be a therapeutic moment. Sometimes I'm frightened that I'll sound like A, a bitch, or B, too harsh, or C, it's so black and white, where, you know, like for years it's been wishy-washy. I needed to do this, or I want to do that, and I wanted to say that. And I think, oh, but if I did, I would sound like, you know, be negative connotation. Now, obviously that must stem from, you know, was seeded from my childhood. How do you overcome that to communicate it softly? Big question.
Well, part of it is realize that A, you're not alone or unique in your fear, because this is one of the biggest fears that keeps people from asserting themselves honestly, because that's really what boundaries are, is telling the truth about how you feel, what you want, what you think. So part of it is start to make friends with your fear, because it's probably not going anywhere.
I love that. Got to write that down.
Isn't that good?
Yep.
And learn the language. So even just think about it this way. If you have to say something to someone, you're telling them, you know, you want them to stop doing something. Let's say someone is being late to meet you for dinner. You say, I'd like to make a simple request.
I love that
If you're
one.
Be more than 10 minutes late, you'll
I've
text me.
used it so many times.
Same. So many
It's my
times.
go-to.
But there's also other language, and that's a soft way. If we're talking to someone that we care about, that we love, and we need to set a limit, they want us to do something. But let's say I had a client who was watching her grandkids like 3 days a week, and she was getting older and she doesn't want to anymore. She's exhausted, you know. I said, listen, let's start with something sweet. We can always start with kindness, not as a manipulation tactic, as the truth. If I'm talking to someone I love, I can say, you know, I love spending time with you, and I can't go to the thing on Wednesday, or whatever it is. Like with this lady, we came up with, you know, helping her pull a script together. You know, I love spending time with the kids, and I have been willing to watch them 3 days a week for the past year and a half. And now my capacity to do that is getting smaller. And so I want to let you know that by August 15th, I'm going to start going to just 1 day a week. And if that's not enough time, I can give you until the 30th. But I really can only do Fridays now.
Meantime, they're throwing something. Hopefully not the baby. You know what I mean? Or the baby's bottle.
That's a beautiful way of setting the boundaries there, saying it in a
soft
kind way.
landing.
And also making them aware of also what you've done as well. I think sort of like speaking up for yourself. And I think it's a great thing too. It's like the language, and the more you do it, the better you get at it. And I certainly had to start from the very beginning. And I've done a couple of your courses, and some of the ones here with your scripts, because it's a great way, Diane, to our listeners too. If you don't know a great way, Terri does give you some scripts just to help you, and you can use it in your own
Nicola
way.
But
I was even saying for sticky beaks, people who want to know too much information, and I've had sort of, I think we've all had those issues there. It's sort of like, why do you ask? Why would you want to know that? Or why would you ask me that? And I've actually said that to people, and it's like you turn it round, and I've just said in an aggressive way, the other one I've used so much, Terri, it hasn't always worked, but it's still, I've used it, and it's how I've felt. I'm sharing with you how I feel, not asking for your opinion. And, I guess in relationships...
I'd find that a bit harsh, but that's my issue.
I think that we can preface, when we start changing our relationship dances, we want to inform people. So let's just say, you think that that's too harsh.
Yeah.
Maybe then you have a preemptive conversation with someone. I know in the past, I've come to you and I've been seeking your counsel on things, and I'm really trying to make up my own mind about things. So I want to talk to you about something, but I really would love it if you could just listen with compassion. I'm not looking for a fix. I don't need the answer. I just want you to be with me in me figuring it out.
Wow. Oh, you've won me over.
There you go. There you go.
I'm glad we're videoing this.
This is great. Yeah,
see, that to me went,
Right.
It's a softer
But they
landing.
can all be like that, though, is my point.
This is where I've got to get over it's also the people pleaser in me too. I know that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what you're going to find is that when you start, and I walk you through the whole 4-step process of setting boundaries, where we don't just do it, we don't just blurt it out, because we go all the way in before we go out. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't fully understand why you relate to boundaries the way that you do, why you have that fear, there's good reason. Trust me, you have a million reasons to have that fear. So it's not that it's not legitimate, but it's the child within each of us that needs our attention around. It's the little kid who's afraid she's going to get in trouble for setting a boundary or a limit or saying no. It's not the grown-up you. Look at you guys. You've got like careers and lives, like you're doing it. So it isn't the grown-up you who doesn't think that she can do it.
No,
it's the little kid. And before I became a therapist, I have to say, if somebody would have talked to me about like child within work, I was like, yeah, okay. Never, just totally thought it was crap. I was like,
no, I get it. I get that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I love hearing you say that.
No, it's just her pure honesty. I love it.
But then I became a therapist, and I was like, oh my God, it's for real.
Eyes are wide open.
Everybody. Yes. I was like, everybody has a wounded inner child who needs our attention.
Yes.
And what happens is when you start really going, why am I afraid? And I walk you through the process in the book of figuring out your downloaded blueprint. So you go, oh, my mother was a people pleaser. So when you have that experience, you go, oh, so look, I identified with being a woman and being a good woman, right? If you had a good mom, you want to be like them. So by emulating them, your mother would be like, oh, it's funny. I have someone who I used to go to the gym with, and the language she and her daughters would use was all about, they were pretty religious, and it was all about being unworthy. And it was so weird because the mother had said, I don't even know how, I don't deserve my husband, whatever. And I thought, that's really weird to say, but okay. Like I was trying not to get nervous, but I was like, what?
Sure.
And then I saw one of her daughters get engaged and use the same exact language on Facebook. I don't deserve you. And I was like, oh my God, what an awful legacy to pass down.
Yeah.
But again, it's the modeled behavior, right? Where it's like, oh, this is the way being a woman is or should be. And it's the same thing with boundaries. So once you have more clarity about why you relate the way that you do, it's so much easier to change.
I know we're having a discussion in the car too about conversations, and I was sort of saying, for my next future partner or whatever, I said what I really do, boundaries I want to set for myself after, I've done your real love revolution, and I've manifested a partner I had for 4 years, and that was great. I'm glad that happened. It's over. Yep. Then I realised also you did a post, how to get over, tools to sort of move forward, but at the different stages, acknowledging it, and the secondary loss and all those things there. And my goodness, that has helped. But, I was saying to Di, I think what a turn on is somebody's either they've gone to therapy or they're willing to do those deep conversations or hard conversations. I sort of really want someone who will go deep, won't avoid it, or gloss it over.
Yep.
And now I realise in both my marriage and maybe my post-4-year relationship, all the relationships I've had, and I've been lots of joys and ticks, but I know for my third act, I want to go deep, and real.
Yeah.
And
I think that this was my own experience where before I met my husband, I literally said, no more unexamined minds. No more. I'd rather be alone.
It's a great line.
Than be with a guy who doesn't know a feeling from a Frankfurter. Like I can't with people who I'm walking them through how to figure out what the hell they're feeling. No, thank you. And I said
it's
to my
exhausting.
Oh God.
And
it's tough to do my own friggin' work.
Exactly. But it's true. Let alone your career every day.
Yeah, exactly. You're busy. Anyway, I said to my girlfriends, I'm not going to date anyone who has not had 20 years of therapy. They were like, good luck.
Yeah.
You might as well.
Are you serious? Oh,
Yes.
Hey, listen. On that note, Terri, I have to ask, do you believe that there comes a point where some people can have too much therapy, whereby they're using it as an excuse rather taking it out into the real world and putting it into action?
I think both. I mean, I think yes, and I think no. I think there are some people who are lifers, and they love it if it's just an hour.
Oh,
you
you're
think
good.
It's up to the therapist
I
to stop
love
it.
your
But let's go back to where you're at.
Lifers.
So for you, what we're sort of saying then too, with your experience, and so then you're saying good luck, and then how did you go?
Well, my husband and I found each other, and on the first date, I said, "How do you feel about therapy?" And he said, literally,
Beautiful.
He said, "Oh, I'm a fan."
Would you like a vodka
And I said,
tonic? Would you like a vodka tonic? No.
Did you
Have
hear
you
what
been?
he said?
Yeah.
I love it. And he said,
Anyway.
I'm a fan.
Yes.
I'm a fan.
He said, "I'm a fan," but that wasn't enough, right? Who cares if he's a fan?
Yeah,
The question is,
exactly,
how long
yes.
has he been in therapy? And I said,
Yeah.
"How much of a fan?"
Yes.
And he said, "Oh, I've had a lot of therapy." And I said, "Can you be more specific?" And he said, "I've had at least 20 years."
Did
He
you
literally
say
said those
put the
words.
ring on my finger?
I'm telling my girlfriends
so
now, like, whoa, they are around.
I think you can find it, is all
Yeah.
I'm saying. I do think that there are people, Nick, that you can find who are interested in taking responsibility. Because men are changing, and I feel like
They
it's
are.
more to
That's a
them.
fact. They're changing.
You don't need
Conversations
a
are
lot,
changing,
right?
yeah.
You just need one person. So I also want to think about it that way when it comes to love. It's not about how many good guys there are, good people there are. It's knowing that you only need one, and having the belief that your right and perfect person is on their way to you right now. So it's not, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to twist yourself up in a pretzel. It's like emanate that vibe that like your person will be friggin' lucky to have you, and they will find you from those vibes.
Be
you
the
know?
example you want to live.
Isn't it
true.
funny? It's energy, like I was saying, getting you on the the podcast there. It was putting that energy again and feeling that, and I actually kind of feel that because I do know what I want and what I don't want, and it's also and I have to thank all my past relationships and a lot of joys for teaching me that. There's been tears and there's been,
It's been
great
a lot of
times
everything. Yeah.
and growth. And sometimes when you're going through the growth, you're going, do I have to go through this growth again? And I feel confident being a 60-year-old woman and being able to speak out now how I actually feel and the gifts and tools of
fabulous.
learning. And it's good. So hopefully we can help some other people along the way.
Terri, I want to chat about a potty you did on the 2nd of July, how we self-sabotage and undermine our success in life. We're habitual creatures, human beings, and sometimes it's more comfortable just to stay in that. It's a bit scary stepping out of that realm. I want to talk to you a little bit about the proven science behind rewiring the brain with neuroplasticity. I mean, basically, if you're stuck, it's very easy to make that change. The brain and all the cellular activity will do it for you, but you've just got to step out of that habitual realm.
Right, but it'll only really do it for you, right? If we're talking about changing habitual behavior.
Yeah.
So, because the habitual behavior is not getting us what we want. So, yes, the neural pathways rewire, but the same way we created those neural pathways was through repetition, consistency and repetition. So, the stepping out process, we need to be consistent and repeat. So, again, this is how we change our minds. We cannot go to sleep. We have to be present. And when you have the thought, let's say the self-defeating thought that you don't want anymore, I always, I'll give you a thing that you can do, like a cognitive behavior, a little thing. You can put like a hair tie on your wrist. And when you have the thought that is counter to what you want, you snap it and go, moving on.
That's a good tip.
It's just a pattern interruption. And you have to be consistent with doing the new pattern. But I think that if we're going to talk about self-sabotage for a sec, what we really need to uncover for anybody listening, if you're in any situation, any repeated behaviors of your own or circumstances that you're in, that you're like, I do not want this. I do not want to be here again. Maybe you say you're going to get healthy and then every night you eat Haagen-Dazs, or maybe it's worse than that, staying in an abusive relationship. We have to uncover the secondary gain of staying stuck, because you're not crazy. We're not crazy human beings. Like, we do things to protect ourselves from pain. So the secondary gain is the unobvious benefit, quote unquote, that we get from staying stuck. And I had over the pandemic, I had a therapy client who was drinking a lot, but I had known her for a long time, and I thought it was situational. I didn't, she's in her 40s. I'm like, you didn't just suddenly become an alcoholic. It's unlikely. But anyway, she was like, I want you to support me. I'm going to stop drinking during the week. I'm only going to drink on the weekends. So for 3 weeks in a row, she failed and was beating herself up. And I was like, let's go at this from a different angle. What is the secondary gain of having 3 huge glasses of wine every night? So the question that we ask, I'll ask you guys to think about it, and the people listening can have it for themselves, is what do you get to not face, not feel, or not experience by staying stuck here? So with this lady, I said, what do you get to not face, not feel, not experience by drinking every night? And she said, that my marriage is over.
Wow. And she'd not said that to you previously?
No. Wow. She did not. Because she was obsessed with her drinking, controlling it, doing less of it.
Clouding.
Yes. It was just a distraction.
Stuck.
Yes. And so when you see the secondary gain, she didn't have to look at the state of her marriage, because she was lighting these fires, which was the drinking too much, and then being like, why so many fires? Then you realize, oh my God, I'm the pyro. I'm literally lighting the fires myself.
I'm the pyro. Wow. You know what? That's such
Incredible.
a great
Incredible.
thing to acknowledge the secondary gain. Like you were saying, even with the
Look
breakup loss, the
underneath
secondary other losses there. It's all going what's underneath it. And so what happened from there? Is she readdressing her marriage situation now? Or?
She actually filed for divorce.
Well, yeah, there you go.
And
probably stopped drinking.
She did, actually.
Yes, yeah.
And it was way more than the pandemic in that situation, right? But because of the pandemic and all of the being close together in a way that she barely saw this guy when there was no pandemic, where you were not locked in the same house together. So now the cracks in these foundational relationships for a lot of people, I saw it go 2 ways during the pandemic with my clients and with myself. Either people got creative, did things together, like the bond got deeper, you felt so much gratitude. That's what happened for me. Or the cracks were already there, but the lifestyle of barely seeing each other or being so busy, and the guy who's traveling all the time and never home. Well, it's easy to stay married there because you're barely interacting. And now they were forced to face the problems that were already there that they had been avoiding for years. And then she got to the point, or a lot of times you get to the point where confusion, because you had said before, Di, about confusion. You had said, it's like gets murky, right? When you think about confusion, what I've seen in my therapy practice is a lot of times when people come in and they're like, oh, I'm so torn about my relationship. I'm so confused about what I should do. I always think to myself, I don't think you are. I feel like you don't want to know what you know. And so confusion becomes a way to not take action. And I would always say to my therapy clients, hey, you can know what you know and still not take action. Like, we can do all of this super slow, but being in denial about how you really feel. Because I'm going to say, at least 50% of the time, by the time someone comes in for therapy about their relationship, it's already too late. Like, they're already so out of there, even if they haven't had an affair with someone they work with or whatever. But like, psychologically, they waited so long that by the time they got there, I'm like, did the boat already leave? Like, actually, did that ship already sail? And half the times they'll say, yeah, it really has. I'm like, okay, well, and we can talk about how to do it with the least amount of damage. You know what I mean?
I'd just love to know, you've been a psychotherapist for decades, like the percentage of clients that are just so much happier once they've placed like they've absorbed boundaries into their everyday realm. You must have witnessed it time and time again.
Thousands. Here's the thing. It's not just happier, though, you guys. It's so much more satisfied. It's the difference.
I love that.
That's a great word.
It's a goodie.
Because that's the real feeling, isn't it?
It's real broad.
And you know what I love to tell everybody here, like listening to, and so the Aussies, I think most Aussies know you, but there's probably some out here who don't, and probably going to find out about you for the first time. But tell everyone about some of the courses that you do. I can hands up to say, look, I've done Real Love Revolution, I've done the Boundary, I think it was called Boundary Boot Camp, and I absolutely devoured it. I took it like a sort of nearly university sort of. I'd said this, and I had a Zen Den, which is an area where you go to Canada. But I'd like to hear it from you, if you can explain to some of our listeners what you offer and what you do.
Well, I have a community that people can join. We're going to be starting that in the fall, where I'm going to go live every single week in the community. So that's something that people have been asking me for years, and I just haven't done it.
Wow.
But we're going to. So that's
huge.
Yes,
Yeah. And then we have I have a whole father wound course, mother wound course, Real Love Revolution, which is about finding, your soulmate or figuring out if you need to stay or go in your relationship. Boundary Boot Camp, which is all about really mastering the art of boundaries. I also have a mastermind that has 10 to 12 women in it.
I've looked at it.
That's
I've come close.
It's very personable.
Maybe one
you
day.
have such a gal fan here,
I know,
Terri.
just saying no apologies, but I have. And then we want to hear about your new book too much as well, which is we absolutely want to hear. But keep on telling our listeners about you, because I can sing your praises.
Because the people, we've really sort of, everyone's salivating now. So we want to land how they can get involved in what you do, because your media platform is huge and varied.
Yeah, well, for people who are looking to know more or learn more, I have a ton of free content too. So certainly I have stuff you can pay for, but I also have over 600 free videos on my YouTube channel.
They're brilliant.
Right. I have
downloads.
600 podcasts. I have the Terri Cole Show, which is my pod that I've had since 2015.
Which we love. I think I've listened to nearly every one.
Why, thank you.
Yeah,
no, Terri, honest to God, I've been Mel Robbins, Gabby Bernstein, Lewis Howes, Jay Shetty.
I just said Oprah.
Terri Cole for years.
I said, on the list, I'm sorry, Oprah, Terri bumped you. And we love Oprah,
That's true.
But on getting on, so today's a huge day, because, I had my list there, and, you actually were one above there. So.
Well, that's very exciting and very flattering. Yeah. It's funny, when I first came into the business publicly, where I was starting to do television and stuff, this was way in the beginning of Oprah. And before she was Oprah as we know her now. But she had her syndicated show, and people were like, I know this is so weird, but you're like the white Oprah, even though you're not, because she was still very big, much bigger than. My mother was like, wait, what are people telling you? I was like, yes. Please,
The one
please compare me to Oprah.
Yeah,
Terri,
exactly.
you'll laugh because we've had some people, actually Americans, because they've found out they listen to our pod and seen Di and I. We've been friends for 40 years, and they're going, "You're the Gail and Oprah of Australia," haven't they? We've had journalists and people say that to us. I don't know who's Oprah and who's Gail, but that's so funny.
Hey, just quickly, Terri, Boundary Boss, the one Nicola brought in, guys. This incredible book. I'm reading it on Audible at the moment. Nicola's probably read this 72 times. But I want to say, I love the line about the book. You say it's for people that are overgiving, overdoing, and overfeeling. It speaks 1,000 words in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we do. And a lot of times it's us as women. We're empaths. We're highly sensitive people. We're taking care of all the people, doing all the things for all the people. And we're tired, which really this led me to the new book, because high functioning codependency is what the new book is about.
And too much,
and
isn't it? I love that.
Yes. You like the title?
I love
Too
that
much.
title. I'm excited about that. Too much.
Me too, really. A guide to breaking the cycle of high functioning codependency. And this is really boundaries, yes, for sure. That's part of the liberation. But understanding how codependency, and I say high functioning, and the reason I coined this phrase is that my clients were all, you guys, they were all women in particular who were very capable, who were like doing things in the world, who did not identify at all with the old school definition of codependency. So they were like, if I would say, hey, what you're describing is a codependent pattern, they're like, yeah, no, not me, lady. Everyone depends on me. I'm making all the money, right? I'm making all the decisions. And I was like, oh, my clients don't know what codependency is. This is what the problem is. And so I coined a new phrase. This whole book is about, instead of overfunctioning, overgiving, auto advice giving, auto accommodating, right? It's all too much. We become the boundary tramplers when we are high functioning codependents, because we can't stop telling people what to do. We can't stop giving advice. We can't stop being like, I have a better way for you to do it. We can't stop being like, I don't know if you should get engaged to that guy. I don't know how we think we're doing it from love, and maybe there's love there, but it's not actually loving. It's super controlling. And so this is something that listen, trust me, you write what you teach what you most need to learn, as they say. So I was the most high functioning codependent, and in changing that, and I share in the book, all kinds of case studies, and my own, actually this book is it's way more personal than Boundary Boss.
Really?
You're the perfect person to write it because of your experience.
That's interesting. I think that's a great thing, because people do want to know a bit more even about you personally as well. Can we just sort of say too, just quickly,
so much
with
we want to talk
codependent,
about.
I know it's a basic thing, like what is being codependent? When they say, you're codependent relationship, I mean, can you just sort of simply say to people who mightn't know, what is it?
I sure can. It's being overly invested in the feeling states, the outcomes, the decisions, the relationships, the circumstances of the people in your life, to the detriment of your own internal peace.
Right. That's a great way.
That sums it up in a nutshell. We're sort of, as usual, running out of time. I just want to say one thing quickly. You spend a lot of time dealing with people with issues, as we call it here. What do you do to wind down? What do you do to relax? What do you do to chill out? I read you had a 250-year-old tree out the back. I'm a tree hugger.
And you've got a dog, and I'm a dog lover.
And you said you talk to the tree, and the tree talks to you, and I love all nature. But what other things do you do to just chill out and unwind?
Well, I also jump on my trampoline every day. So that's my main workout.
Fun?
Is on a mini
Olympic
trampoline. I meditate every day. I do energy work. One of my best friends is the most amazing energy healer.
And lastly, I know you're going to think I'm mental.
You are a bit
for the life of me, because I lived in New York a long time ago. I cannot pronounce your suburb. These little town blues.
So I always sing along.
She loves to sing. If I can make it there.
Okay,
how do you pronounce your suburb where you live? I've got She Neck Taddy.
No, I don't. I don't know what that is.
Where do you live in New York?
Not there.
What is it? What's it called?
Oh,
I read it.
I was born.
Yeah.
I was born in Schenectady.
Oh, so
that's it. That's
Can you say it again? For the life of me, I can't.
Sure.
Schenectady.
Yeah, Schenectady.
But you live.
I don't live there.
No, but you live in
what
upper
the
state New
hell?
York, do you, Terry?
Yeah,
I do. I live up by Albany. I'm in the woods, though. I live on a little farm.
Beautiful. And have you got geese as well?
I have geese, I have chickens, I have hens, I have my dog, Charlie Girl.
Oh, Charlie Girl. How old's Charlie Girl?
10 months old.
10 months old. That's why you're not coming out to Australia, because you don't want to leave your doggy.
How daggy am I? Your enthusiasm, Terry's rubbing off on me. I wrote, Terri, thanks from all of us from around the world for your perseverance over many decades to empower us and teaching us to honour our boundaries. Oh, it almost made me teary.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never done that for a guest, have I?
Too, but
we're getting wound up.
We've got some signature questions here. Did you want to shoot daddy-doody-daddy-doo?
Oh, if you had the opportunity of meeting somebody, anybody, alive or passed away, down at the back fence, who would that be and why?
Barbra Streisand.
Oh, Babs!
Wow, she's one of my faves. Do you know her personally? Have you met her? Have you met her? Or
I have not.
Oh, so it's going to be at the fence.
That's another little song you can sing, one from Babs.
Oh, don't even start me
And why is that, Terry?
I was just very influenced by, my mother was obsessed with her growing up. I just listened to her 48-hour memoir, which was unbelievable, and she voiced it herself. It was so good.
Oh, that's a good one.
wait.
She's
That's
been
a good
huge
tip.
part of my life.
Yeah,
You know?
strong.
Oh, wow.
She's overcome. She's such a feminist in like all the best ways.
Yes.
She's so political. She's on the right side of everything, according to me.
Yes.
So I have so much respect for her because she used her platform to do something good in the world,
Great.
even when she got shit for it. And she still did it, you know?
Yeah.
I just love her.
she's
Besides
sassy.
loving her music.
Yes.
But it's more than the music. And then she has this beautiful love story with James
Yes.
Brolin.
Can you believe it?
We
Mine
love
with my
that.
husband.
Right.
We all like a nice romance
Meet him later on.
and that. Well,
Yeah, I love it.
now, what advice would you give to your 20-year-old self, Terry? And I'm dying to know this one from you.
I mean, I think people say, it sounds kind of pedestrian. People say all the time, like, it's going to work out. Relax, you know? But I feel like what I would really tell my 20-year-old self is to enjoy more and stress less. Like, I've always been incredibly ambitious, and that's something that, you know, can be constricting inside of you. Like, have more fun. You know, even though I've had fun in my life, but I felt like my 20-year-old self felt really compelled to be successful in a way that I really needed to prove something. And I wish I could tell her she's great and she doesn't need to prove squat. Like, you're worthy right now, 20-year-old, you know?
Oh, yeehaw. What a beautiful answer.
speaks.
And it's interesting how it is, because maybe if you weren't that one, you mightn't have done all the work that you're doing into the world. We never know, do we?
No.
But
Yeah,
that's a
Terri,
great way to
amazing.
be. I think a lot of Aussies are children relaxed, but we can always...
I think there'll be more children relaxed
And this
when they
one and the
learn
new
to
upcoming book, you know, so we're going to
boundaries.
have everything on our show notes for everybody. And so, Terry, thank you again. Our dreams have come
Amazing.
true. We'd, you know, if we can get you again at some stage, we'd like it, and
So
to talk
beautiful.
too much, because we can never really talk too much. But
Correct.
everybody,
I don't know about
thank
that.
you for listening. And you know, as we always say, we like people to rate, follow, review, because we know how important that is.
Yeah, and I love how Terri talks about that.
Terry
on your
reads out
podcast.
her people, so we'd like
Yeah.
to do the same. And we give
Yeah,
you like to ask for the 5 stars. Di likes to blow her own trumpet sometimes. Now think of
55
how
out
many
of
stars-
5.
What
No.
does Terry get? Come on.
55 out of 5.
Woohoo! I read that. Everybody,
sure.
let's just blow up
See?
that computer.
Boundaries. That's what I believe. That's what I don't care what any of it. That's my boundaries. We're going to be 55
Right.
out of 5. You can say what you want. Terri,
Terry,
thank you. And thanks
From
for
New York.
Thank you,
explaining
guys.
New York.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Take
Bye.
care.